Thank you very much. And I consider this a very blessed evening. Just being together, people who come from different faith traditions that make up our country and our society, being able to listen to one another, being able to talk to one another, being able to be on the same table, I think this is a great moment for our country, for our civilization, and for the future. And I thank Mazharbai for thinking of this event and bringing all of us together. I begin with the Beatitudes. Beatitudes is basically the ethical framework of Jesus' teaching, which is a contradiction to the values of the world. Everything that the world would consider what is winnable is not considered of value. Instead, a disciple, a Christian, needs to have an inner transformation, a transformation that would create a new attitude that is blessed. That is what beatitude really means, a blessed attitude. And I think each of these concerns that we are trying to express are contained in these words that Jesus begins his Sermon on the Mount with. And this is something that has influenced people across centuries and across civilizations. Mahatma Gandhi came to realize the value of nonviolence reading chapter 5 of Matthew, where the Sermon on the Mount and the Beatitudes are. Martin Luther King Jr., his civil rights movement began from this passage. Nelson Mandela could suffer imprisonment for 27 years because he was imbued with what the meaning of the Beatitudes. It reads, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for because they fight for a just society, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." I do not go to explain the meaning of these. This is the ethical framework of a disciple, of a Christian. After teaching all that needed to be taught to his disciples, Jesus summed up his entire teaching into two principles. He said, all that has been taught by religions, has been taught by prophets, all that has been written can be summed up in two principles. One, love God with all your heart, with all your spirit, with all your mind. And the second, love your neighbor as you love yourself. the God he was talking about? It's not a distant God. It is not a judgmental God. It is not a God versus me, but it is a God that is a parent. In fact, the analogy that he uses is God as father, God as mother, a loving father, a loving mother. A God that is close to me as anything can be. A God who is concerned about you. God who loves. And that is the reason we say God is love. Not someone who is outside, but desires the best that is the best that can happen to any child. And he goes on. In fact, in one of his sermons, someone from the audience asks him, and he says, love God, love your neighbor. He's asked, who is your neighbor? And there is a very famous parable, story that he narrates to drive home who your neighbor is. And here is what he says. There was a person who was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. And it is a very deserted road, two famous cities. And on the way, this person is attacked by thieves, beaten up, his horse stolen, money taken away, bleeding, lying by the roadside. And there is a priest, a religious leader, a respectable person who normally should be concerned about a person lying by the roadside like that. But Jesus says he saw him, but he was in a hurry because he was waiting, he was going for some ritual, and then he passes by. Second comes a Levite. A Levite is someone who assists in the temple ceremonies. He is also in a hurry. He too passes by. And then comes a Samaritan. In the Jewish Samaritans were the outsider, the Dalit. The one who was least respected by the Jewish community. He was a total outsider who did not share in the religious belief that the Jews shared. And he is passing by. He saw this person by the roadside. He stops. He takes him, gives him water, nurses him, and when he is feeling a little better, he takes him to an inn on his horseback and tells the innkeeper, he is my brother. He has been injured. I have done the best that I could to him. Please keep him in the inn. Take care of him until he is healed. And I am giving you whatever money is with me now, but I will come back. I will come back and pay the rest to you, and I will take my brother along. Now Jesus asked this person who questioned him, who among these three do you consider a neighbor? And they answered, the Samaritan person who took care of him. Now this is very interesting in the sense, the ideal of a Christian, ideal of a disciple is not someone who belongs to your own religion. He is not someone who belongs to your caste. He is not someone who comes from your neighborhood or your region or your language, who speaks your language. But your neighbor is the one who is in need. Anyone who is in need is your neighbor. Go and do likewise. That's what Jesus tells him, tells the person who asks him this question. And I think, in fact, there is another in Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25. There is a scene of the Last Judgment that Jesus talks about. The Last Judgment, humanity is gathered, and the judge, he says, would divide humanity, some to the right, some to the left. To those on the right, the judge will not ask whether you are a Christian, whether you belong to that religion, whether you belong to that caste, or this region, this language, whatever. All that he will say is, I was hungry and you gave me to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me to drink. I was naked on the street and you dressed me. I was in jail. You visited me, you released me. Come, enjoy the blessedness of heaven. And they will ask, but when did we do that? When you did these to any one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you did this to me. And you would say that he would turn to those on the left and say the same thing. I was hungry, but then you turned the other way. You did not give me food. I was thirsty for some water. You opened your bottle and drank it yourself. You did not give it to me. I was naked. I was poor. I could not dress. But you did nothing. You were in your audacious, well-dressed, fashionable attire, but you did not care to dress me. I was imprisoned. I was jailed. I was persecuted. You did not lift a finger to visit me, to inquire about me, to release me, to give me relief. You have judged yourself, and the judgment that you have given to yourself is that you do not deserve the paradise. In other words, for a Christian, there is no religion really. Finally, it's not how many times that you went to the church, how many times you attended this ceremony or that ritual or this ritual, how many times you prayed or how many times you meditated. These are not the questions that will be asked. The only question that will be asked is, how often, how much did you consider the one in need, your neighbor, your brother, your sister?